Vernon Vibes is brought to you in part by United Water, the official water company of Vernon Township. United Water, involved in the communities they serve.
The Vernon Independent Retailers Association reminds you that when you shop locally, you're helping to build our community by supporting local employment and keeping your tax dollars in our community. Support the Vernon Independent Retailers who support you. Brought to you by the Copy Center, H&H Auto Parts, Healthy Times Market, Heaven Hill Farm, Lakeland Pool and Spa, McAfee Hardware, McAfee Ski and Snowboard, and Valley Paint and Hardware. Come in, we're local.
Good evening and welcome to this edition of Vernon Vibes. It's been a while since we've seen each other and there's been some fun and excitement, and we will certainly talk about that a little later on in the show. But I want to thank you for joining us, and we're back on the air and intend to be on the air as we go forward. So as I usually do, I'd like to start our program this evening talking about what's going on in Vernon Township. And one of the first things I want to tell you about is one of the biannual occurrences here in Vernon Township. Actually on Saturday, November the 8th, 2014, from 10 a.m. to 1 p.m. at the Township Garage here on Church Street, the Vernon Township Animal Control Department will be providing rabies shots for your pets. So please bring any prior rabies certificates with you when you come, and dog licenses if they're available, because both of those are necessary documentation to continue. Be sure that all your dogs are on leashes and that cats are in carriers. And if you have any questions about the program, you can get them answered at 973-764-7751. So that's November the 8th, from 10 in the morning till 1 in the afternoon. Vernon Township's Rabies Clinic will be operational again. Gives me the opportunity to say thank you to all the volunteers that make that program available. If the township had to pay the people that work during the clinic, it would be an extremely expensive affair. It's mainly manned by volunteers, including our veterinarians who give of their service, and of course the Friends of the Animal Control Center who have been there for Vernon Township and their furry friends since the very beginning. So again, take advantage of it. Obviously, it's required that your pet be licensed and that the pet be inoculated against rabies. Take advantage of this one. It's free. We'll look forward to seeing you there. That's always a really big affair here in town, and people do take advantage of it. So if you haven't in the past, come on out and take advantage of it. In addition, in the month of November, we will in fact be coming face-to-face with a very interesting thing here in America, and it's small business. Support your small businesses. Actually, I believe it's the 29th of November, a 24-hour time frame in which there are special incentives that'll be available from our local businesses that take part. I'll have more to say to you about it as we go forward. But as always, this office and this administration is committed to communicating the real value of your shopping locally in Vernon. And so I just want to take the opportunity to remind you again that when you do that, in addition to the convenience of being able to shop close to home, you're investing in this community in so many ways that you may not even understand. So I would encourage you to continue to use your Shop Vernon cards. That program is going phenomenally. As a matter of fact, the last numbers that I saw were at the end of the first 4 months, gross sales that were generated to our businesses on the Shop Vernon card ran close to $250,000 and had generated close to $10,000 in tax reductions for the people who are using the card. I'm told that, in fact, that program is picking up steam, and so I want to take this opportunity to tell you, folks in Vernon, if you don't have your Shop Vernon card yet, it's still available. You can get it here in the mayor's office, either stop in or call. And if you do have it, carry it with you. When you go into a store, ask the merchant whether or not they recognize it, because in the 4 months that we have been we've had this program, we started with 15 merchants. We're now up to 22. And so the more merchants that take part, the more people that take part, the benefit to the community becomes a geometrical progression, positive economic activity. And that's something that we all really want to and need to engender here in the town. I'll be back with you in just a minute.
Vernon Vibes is brought to you in part by United Water, the official water company of Vernon Township. United Water, involved in the communities they serve.
The Vernon Independent Retailers Association reminds you that when you shop locally, you're helping to build our community by supporting local employment and keeping your tax dollars in our community. Support the Vernon Independent Retailers who support you. Brought to you by the Copy Center, H&H Auto Parts, Healthy Times Market, Heaven Hill Farm, Lakeland Pool and Spa, McAfee Hardware, McAfee Ski and Snowboard, and Valley Paint and Hardware. Come in, we're local.
Welcome back. As I often like to do, I would like to quickly run through the activity of the latest town council meeting, which actually took place on October 27th. And I'd like to start off by telling you that most of you know by now, but for those who don't travel in that area, the Breakneck Road paving project has in fact been virtually completed. There's still some minor things that need to be done, a few areas of guardrail that are being worked on as I talk to you. The permanent reflectors in the line striping of the road will be done in the early part of next week. But I bring it to your attention for two purposes. Breakneck Road, is those of you who travel it know, it's one of the most dangerous roads we have in the township. It has a 17% grade in places and is extremely curvy. A few of the things that you probably will not realize but come to appreciate is that we were able to widen the pavement so that in fact all of the lanes are a bit wider, particularly the crawl lane as you go up the hill. And we are using a line striping that has a long life and high reflective surface, and we chose an asphalt which in fact will give better traction to the roadway. That project actually was completed in 7 working days, although it was stretched out over a longer period because of Mother Nature, and I know that there was some frustration on the part of some of the people in the area. Most residents understood that for the safety of the traveling public, until we had the delineation, the lane delineation lines down, it would not be safe to open it. And so at the behest of the township engineer and with the cooperation of the Vernon Police Department, we maintained the road in a local traffic only mode until actually Monday afternoon passed. It is now open. I've had comments from people who already see the improvement. And the most important thing I want to tell you about it is we brought it in on time, sooner than we had anticipated we'd be able to, and more importantly, significantly under budget, something that we like to do on your behalf. I'd also like to tell you that Vernon Township is a member of the New Jersey League of Municipalities, and earlier in the year, in a request from the League, Vernon Township, in fact, submitted an application to be considered for some awards that are handed out annually by the League of Municipalities. In this particular year, the area that we competed in was innovative ways of delivering local government at a reduced cost. The program that was submitted by Vernon Township goes back to 2012, when we, through the Administrative Office of the Courts and our own municipal court, led by Judge James Devine and managed by our court administrator, Donna Zeidema, and her assistant, Lindsay Miller, along with our prosecutor, Mike Hannafin, we all were looking at ways to save money for the township in terms of the ubiquitous arraignment of prisoners that have been lodged in the county jail. And of course, whenever that was happening, if there was a trial and the defendant was incarceration in the jail, we had to send 2 of our police officers on overtime to Newton, pick up the prisoner, bring them here to the court, where they sat all day long until the hearing or the trial or whatever, and then transport them back to the jail. That resulted in a significant amount of overtime. The average overtime cost on just wages alone in our police department approaches $75 an hour. And so the fact of the matter was that we were looking at ways to address that. In 2012, we expended $13,000 to purchase the equipment necessary and to establish the secured telephone line between here and the county jail, and since that time have not spent one penny of overtime in transporting prisoners, since we do all of the arraignments and much of the other legal work necessary via video camera. That program was submitted, and I'm happy to tell you that of the 564 municipalities in New Jersey, while we didn't win the top award, that went to Princeton Borough and Princeton Township, that were the first communities to merge in New Jersey. Vernon Township was selected for honorable mention, and I'm really proud of that. The competition is stiff, and the fact of the matter is, to be recognized for that kind of innovative and kind of out-of-the-box thinking to solve financial problems and being able to share it with the rest of the state is something that we all are very proud of, and I hope that you would be too. In addition, at the council meeting last, a very important exercise took place. You see, the state of New Jersey Department of Community Affairs has a questionnaire that they send to the local governments every year. It's called the Best Practices Questionnaire. And there are some very, very important areas that are addressed by this questionnaire. And frankly, the questions are designed such that the state is looking for a yes response. For example, do you have more than one person signing all financial documents? And there's a whole myriad of them. There's probably somewhere in the area of 70 questions that get asked. Why am I telling you about it? Well, if you don't meet a certain percentage, the township doesn't meet a certain percentage of those questions with an affirmative response, the state then begins to reduce your state aid. I'm happy to report to you that this year, for the third year in a row, we have met and surpassed the minimum standards that are required under the best practices here in Vernon Township, and we do not anticipate any cuts in state aid as a result of that particular exercise. That actually is a compliment to the managers, from the business administrator, Mr. Bill Zuckerman, to the chief financial officer, Elka Yetter, right through every one of my department heads and division heads who have responsibility for communicating our objectives and seeing to it that they're carried out in an efficient and economical way. Once again, we've achieved our goal. My compliments to them, and I would hope that you as residents appreciate what that means to you in terms of service improvement and tax savings. I'll be back in just a minute.
Vernon Vibes is brought to you in part by United Water, the official water company of Vernon Township. United Water, involved in the communities they serve.
The Vernon Independent Retailers Association reminds you that when you shop locally, you're helping to build our community by supporting local employment and keeping your tax dollars in our community. Support the Vernon Independent Retailers who support you. Brought to you by the Copy Center, H&H Auto Parts, Healthy Times Market, Heaven Hill Farm, Lakeland Pool and Spa, McAfee Hardware, McAfee Ski and Snowboard, and Valley Paint and Hardware. Come in, we're local.
Welcome back. You may recall that in the last edition of Vernon Vibes, I spoke to the Christmas tree lighting. Now, that particular show wasn't up for a very long time, so you may have missed it. And maybe it works to our advantage because in the meantime, the Vernon Township Recreation and Community Development Department realized that the date selected was running smack into a conflict with a major Christmas program at one of the middle schools here in the township. And so after some consultation and communication, everybody got their act together. And so I'm pleased to tell you that December 9th, 2014, December 9th, mark your calendar. It's one of the highlights of the year here in Vernon Township. We will in fact have our Christmas tree lighting at the Vernon Township Fire Department in the town center, as we have for the past 3 years. You will be entertained by Santa. There will be all kinds of refreshments. You'll be entertained by several choral groups from our school system who have been just wonderful in their participation in the past. And of course, it all culminates with Santa's arrival and our annual fireworks. So mark your calendar, December 9th, the town council actually authorized the permit for the fireworks to be there this particular year. I wish I could tell you that we had a unanimous vote, but apparently we've got a couple of Grinches on the council who think that it's inappropriate for us to enjoy fireworks at Christmas time. So nonetheless, enough votes prevailed. The program is going forward, and I want to invite you all to join us on December 9th for what has always been, as I said, a highlight of the year and a lot of fun. And for me, as the mayor, just seeing the smiles on the youngsters' faces and the good time that everyone's having and the sense of brotherhood and the spirit of the Christmas season makes it all worthwhile. So come on out. We'll look forward to seeing you there. I'll be back in just a second.
Vernon Vibes is brought to you in part by United Water, the official water company of Vernon Township. United Water, involved in the communities they serve.
The Vernon Independent Retailers Association reminds you that when you shop locally, you're helping to build our community by supporting local employment and keeping your tax dollars in our community. Support the Vernon Independent Retailers who support you. Brought to you by The Copy Center, H&H Auto Parts, Healthy Times Market, Heaven Hill Farm, Lakeland Pool and Spa, McAfee Hardware, McAfee Ski and Snowboard, and Valley Paint and Hardware. Come in, we're local.
Welcome back. This show is the last show before Election Day, November the 4th. And I have spoken to the issue of elections often in the past, and certainly I don't believe I'd be doing my civic duty if I didn't address it this time. Oftentimes as I travel the township and I talk to people about what's on their mind or how are things going and the like, and we get involved in the conversation. At some point along the way, I ask them, by the way, are you registered? Do you vote? And the answer to that question, those questions, oftentimes is split. Yes, I'm registered, and I'll often vote. And we oftentimes will get into a conversation about why and the wherefore of it. You don't need any lecture from me to tell you how important it is for each of us to cast our ballot. We all know what sacrifice has been paid in life and liberty and all the things that we do enjoy as Americans so that we can go to the ballot box and we can vote. But there's a responsibility part of it too. And I don't think, and this is my own opinion, that we do a good enough job of making everyone aware that, yes, voting is a freedom, it's a privilege, it's a right, but it also is a responsibility. Bertrand Russell, who is a prolific and well-known political writer of the early 20th century, I think he said it best when he said, in democracy, people get exactly the government that they deserve. And I think what he was saying basically was, first, you must commit yourself to go out and vote. From all indications, this upcoming election looks like it's going to be a light voter turnout. What that means to somebody like myself, who's a political scientist, and candidly, I don't have a horse in this race, okay? You all know that there are no local elections for the municipal government, although there are 3 very important elections for the school board, as well as a freeholder seat and a U.S. congressman's seat. And I believe there are several state ballot questions concerning whether or not to continue to fund open space borrowing, telling the state to, yes, go ahead and borrow money to, in fact, buy or preserve open space. Those things will all be there. Candidly, as I look at the state, and I don't mean to be a harbinger of doom on this issue, but it's kind of hard to encourage people to okay the state to borrow more money for this purpose when in fact we know that in July of 2015, the New Jersey Transportation Trust Fund will be bankrupt. And unless this state has the intestinal fortitude or the ability, if you will, to address a new funding source, that's politicalese for a new tax, just in case you didn't pick up on it. If we don't begin to find a way to fund that, over $20 billion worth of priority projects that our roads, rails, and buses need will fall by the wayside. And if that happens, the federal funding, the federal share of the funding will dry up. And I guess what I'm saying to you right now is open space is great, and you all know I'm a proponent of it. Always have been, always will be. But I think responsible government needs to prioritize ways for us to get to work safely, to move through our state, to have the kind of commerce occur that is brought on by better transportation systems. Somebody has got to begin to talk about the fact that we need both sides of the aisle. We need the state government to come to some solution, and I pray that we won't see some kind of financial tomfoolery, but rather we'll get down to the business of what needs to be done. If we don't, I see some nasty things on the horizon. But coming back to the election, that situation I just mentioned is just one small part of it. Just one small part of it. The myriad of issues that we face as a township, a county, a state, and the country all are impacted on your behavior vis-a-vis the ballot box. And if you don't go and you don't cast your ballot, in essence, the people who are making the decisions on your behalf, the governmental elected officials at all levels, assume, well, you must like it because you're not voting us out. You're not even coming out to vote. I'm not sure that we want to cast that kind of a message. And so I beseech you, I humbly but strongly urge you to circle November the 4th on your calendar, find out where your polling place is, read about the candidates and the issues, prepare yourself when you go into that ballot box to cast your vote based upon the information that you've been able to glean, and let's all get out there and vote on November 4th. Thanks. I'll be back in just a minute.
Vernon Vibes is brought to you in part by United Water, the official water company of Vernon Township. United Water, involved in the communities they serve.
The Vernon Independent Retailers Association reminds you that when you shop locally, you're helping to build our community by supporting local employment and keeping your tax dollars in our community. Support the Vernon Independent Retailers who support you. Brought to you by The Copy Center, H&H Auto Parts, Healthy Times Market, Heaven Hill Farm, Lakeland Pool and Spa, McAfee Hardware, McAfee Ski and Snowboard, and Valley Paint and Hardware. Come in, we're local.
Welcome back. I said at the beginning of the program that I would have a few words to say to you about the last issue of Vernon Vibes, which saw one TV viewing and approximately 8 hours of internet before the producers of my show took it down. I've been in extensive conversations with them as to their reasoning, the why, and the wherefore. And let me state categorically, I understand why that decision was made by the producers of my show, and I understand what precipitated it. Rather than get into he said, she said, who did what, it's really very simple. I know full well that I was extremely aggressive in my comments concerning the Sussex County Community College. And I want to report to you that I have not had one communication from anyone directly having to do with that college. That's fine. I'm told that the chairman of the board indicated she wouldn't dignify my comments with an answer. That's her choice. The fact of the matter is that since all of that took place, this past Monday, the school, in fact, adopted a resolution to hire and pay the Sabre law firm retroactively with the explanation that it was an oversight. That's just fine. I don't really care what it is. I don't really care what the explanation is. Thank you for doing it right. Would have been nice if you did it that way the first time, but thank you for doing it right. I also see where a subcommittee has been appointed by the college to look at the problem of declining enrollment. Again, thank you. You're obviously doing the things that I was speaking to. If I offended anyone personally, I publicly apologize. But I also maintain that as an elected public official in this county, with a long history and a stakeholder in that college, I have a right to speak my mind, and I will continue to do so. I want to see the college succeed. It is not my intent to hurt in any way, but rather to insist that they carry on their business in the same way that every municipality and every county in the state of New Jersey is required. I wish them the best of luck. I admire the trustee, Mr. Dan Perez, for having the intestinal fortitude to bring that information to the fore also. And I simply say, it looks as though the message may be seeping home, even if the leadership of the college doesn't want to communicate about it. I thank you for making those changes. Good luck.
Vernon Vibes is brought to you in part by United Water, the official water company of Vernon Township. United Water, involved in the communities they serve.
The Vernon Independent Retailers Association reminds you that when you shop locally, you're helping to build our community by supporting local employment and keeping your tax dollars in our community. Support the Vernon Independent Retailers who support you. Brought to you by The Copy Center, H&H Auto Parts, Healthy Times Market, Heaven Hill Farm, Lakeland Pool and Spa, McAfee Hardware, McAfee Ski and Snowboard, and Valley Paint and Hardware. Come in, we're local.